You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Brittany Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it.
What's out there? What creates the shadows in the corners or the creatures of the dark? Who are those on the other side? What do they have to say? This is the Gateway Podcast. This is not your normal style of paranormal talk radio. Brought to you live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans.
And welcome to this episode of the Gateway Podcast, broadcast from 107.7 FM New Orleans. I'm your host, C.L. Thomas. Welcome again, good people. So I had a guest tonight, and unfortunately she had to cancel because of an emergency that she's having. So keep Michelle Welsh in your prayers. She is going to the emergency room tonight for some problems. So just keep her in good thoughts and in your prayers. In this frosty, cold day today here in Las Vegas, it was, believe it or not, 45 degrees. 45 degrees in Las Vegas. Okay, so I know the rest of you are on a deep freeze, and I understand that, but you know, usually this time of year, it's about 60 degrees. This is so unusual for Las Vegas. And at nighttime, I think it's been dropping down into the low 20s. So it's so cold here. We don't even know what to do because we're not equipped for that kind of weather, quite frankly. But in my world of news, Erie Expeditions magazine is coming out. The new edition is coming out February 1st. So you'll be able to get your copy at erieexpeditionsmagazine.com. My guest tonight, he's the host and he's a good friend. He's Greg Bakun. He's the host of a nightly paranormal radio show host, GhostBox Radio. And I know I'm doing a terrible job. I'm so sorry, you guys. Let me get him on here. I keep stumbling over my words, and it's because my computer is doing all this weird stuff right now. So let me get him on here and get my thoughts together. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm so horrible at doing like the intros.
Oh, I am too, quite frankly. And the thing is, my worst thing is same with you. The names, getting the names, and I, even when talking beforehand to a guest, they'll tell it to me, and I will get it wrong every single time on the air. That's just how I operate. So
yeah, I don't know if I just get nervous or something, and then I just start pronouncing words incorrectly. It's the weirdest. It's almost like a inverted stutter to where I'll start pronouncing words wrong, or they just won't come. One of the two.
I get it. I get it very much. And I also like the fact that between Las Vegas and Minnesota, where I'm at, there is literally about 100-degree difference. You're at 45 degrees, and overnight last night, I think I mentioned we were at about negative 40, negative 45, something like that. So it's just
my goodness. Well, how do you guys are equipped to deal with that sort of thing, though? Hi, Joe Fox. How are you?
I appreciate you thinking that. I didn't go out at all today. I had no interest in that. That's too cold. That's just a little too much. And schools were canceled for the day and stuff like that. It's ridiculous, but we're heading back up sometime next week. We're supposed to be in the 30s, which actually that's really warm for January. So we're on the mend. I know that at least.
That's really interesting. So 45 is pretty cold for us. And, I lived in Pennsylvania. I lived all over the place and Nashville. And I came to the conclusion that 50 is just too cold for me. I don't go outside if it's below 50. Hence why I live in Vegas.
I will wear shorts still. I will still wear shorts. When last week it was like just like 5 degrees out or something. I still would wear shorts, but a parka. And people are gonna be like, "Yep, there's always one out there." Well, even when I would do that, I would see other people out there wearing shorts. So I'm not even unique in that regard. So, but yeah, it's cold. It's ridiculous. And I
never understood the people who wear shorts in the wintertime. Unless you're at the gym, it's a little different, or running outside or something like that. But I mean, don't you get achy?
No, I don't even feel it. Maybe I have no feeling in the bottom half of my body. I have no idea. But as long as I have a coat on, I'm pretty good. Then I'm all right. But if I'm just, I don't like pants. I mean, that sounds weird, and that's, we're already taking this in a direction maybe we weren't meant to, but it's just like, I just don't like it. I wear shorts all year round as much as I can. So, but then like yesterday when it was negative, like a billion, I wore jeans. I mean, that's just, there is a point that even I'm like, no, this is dumb. So.
So Sean from Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, he says he doesn't go outside either if it's 50, but you live in Pittsburgh, dude. It's like 12 degrees there.
Yeah.
You have lake effect. It's way cold. I know this. I've been there.
When we get back to about 20 degrees in a day or so, I think tomorrow's actually supposed to be in the 20s. It's going to feel like Florida. Well, I mean, Florida right now is being hit with snow, but I mean,
yes,
crazy. But a normal Florida, because you get out there and it's 20 degrees after something like this, and you're just like, oh, this is nice. This is like, I can breathe. Like, it's not so cold that your insides are like crystallizing in ice. So yeah, this is I can't wait. I can't wait for 20-degree weather again. My God.
Joanne says, she says, up here is the dampness up in the Yukon, Alaska. What's the weather like in Alaska? How cold is it there right now?
Oh, it has to be pretty cold, I would think. And, I think a lot of those places in Alaska, I mean, depending on how rural they are, that they close them off. Like they're just like, they get all their provisions and stuff, and they kind of close off for the season, or get very few people coming out to them, because once the snow starts hitting, I think it's very difficult to get out there to some of those very rural areas in Alaska. Like I know anything about Alaska. I'm coming across as Mr. Alaska over here. I really don't know.
Well, have you watched the shows about people staying up there?
I have. I'm fascinated by the resilience, and I'm fascinated by the fact that they can actually do something worthwhile. And I sit here toiling with, like, trying to figure out how to, untake the wrapper off of a piece of Kraft cheese. It's just like, just watching them, you're like, wow, okay, this is they do a lot, and I am actually fairly pathetic. So yeah.
I don't know though, or is it? I just think of this story, Into the Wild, with Kristen McCallis, how he ends up dying in the bus of starvation, and he's up there stuck. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's people who are good at that sort of thing, and there aren't. And I'm the one thing I'm wise enough to know is that I wouldn't be good in that situation. So I'm all about the creature comforts of nice central heating and stuff like that, especially at this time of year. Thank goodness for electric blanket last night. My God.
Yes, me too. So speaking of television shows, we did talk a little bit earlier before we got on this show about paranormal TV and the direction it's heading. And do we want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely.
Without.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. I mean, it's such an interesting topic, and I had mentioned that I had guested on a podcast where it was a panel discussion about it. And do you mind if I name the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
It's called Supernatural Circumstances. That's hosted by Mike Brown and Morgan Knudsen, and they asked me to be on it and talking about it. But the thing is, and I've been fascinated because I've been kind of thinking a lot about that myself since then, and it's just, the thing about paranormal television, and tell me if you agree, is that there's a lot of layers to this in terms of like perception. The fact that, is it even television anymore? Is it more about the appearances at conventions by the people on the show? Because I mean, no one's really making anything new, and the people who are trying to hold on and continue to make stuff, they're trying to, they're all scattered trying to figure out other ways of creating content, which isn't a bad thing, but is that going to pay off the same way as having a show on the Travel Channel versus having like something on a streaming service, or having something on YouTube, and you go like the GoFundMe route to try to raise the money to make the content that you want to make? You know what I mean?
Right. It's a catch-22 because I think what they're doing is, hi Candy, how are you?
Hi, Candy.
You do have these. Okay, so every career out there and everything that we experience in life, it has that bell curve, right? It starts low, and then it goes up, and it curves, and then it comes back down. The paranormal has been on that down slope for the last 5-6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's finally crashing to where, it's just got old. It got, people started doing the same things, same locations. They kind of lost what made it so entertaining to begin with. Instead they fell into this vicious cycle that, hey, if we go and investigate Waverly, we know that it's going to make television just because it's Waverly and it's with this X star or whatever. People, and I think, now that it's on that downhill slope, you got a group of people that's been in it for a while, 10 plus years. What else are they going to do? If you really think about it. I don't mean that in a bad light or anything like that, but
you're resigned to the outskirts of society because you've been on paranormal television. You have no skills whatsoever.
No, that's not what I'm saying here by any means. But you want to keep making money in this field, and a lot of people say, well, it shouldn't be about the money, but this is people's living. This is how people make their living. So then they're looking at these younger kids who are making a couple grand a week on YouTube and on these streamings. I don't know if they're streaming, they're social media stars and things like that. And now they're trying to tap into that world and capture some of that pie. And what they're doing is they're creating these streaming services. There's how many out there now? Like 5 or 6 of them? And they're all kind of siloed. Yeah. Everybody's in their own little silos. So it's going to be kind of difficult to continue that, I think.
It's such an the way that you laid that out, I think it's really interesting, because I do think there's something about the fact that because you have success at one point, and when you have success on something like, say, a Travel Channel, where you are taken care of to a certain degree, that when you have that support system taken away and you're kind of left to figure it out for yourself, if you want to continue and you still want to try to capture lightning in the bottle a second time, that how do you create that buzz again? And I think like the folks of is it Destination Fear? They knew what to do. They weren't in it long enough where, first of all, you had the people who are the production people are the people you see on screen. So it's a very nimble sort of, for the most part, a very nimble sort of production there. Others, though, they're trying to find a way to, and I don't mean this in a negative way either, but to stay relevant in the field.
Right.
And I don't think that there's anything wrong with people trying, and I know that's exactly what you're saying too. There isn't anything wrong with people trying to continue to stay relevant. This is their lifestyle. This is, what they know what to do. They've had success with it. But you do have people who are coming up who know that they don't need a travel channel, and Travel Channel just doesn't do it anymore anyway. So
exactly.
you get these people, these younger people now who are redefining how to make programming. I'm not saying necessarily it's, in my opinion, it's the right way, because it still comes down to the basic thing of we go in and we investigate, and 90% of the time it's people who are trying to create content that is going to scare the viewer, and there isn't really a lot of room for educating the viewer, as I see it, at least.
You're exactly right. I think the way the paranormal is being played out is so much different now. Instead, you have these kids going into these haunted locations. It's a scare factor, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going in, they want to see the demons. That's what they're portraying in their YouTube videos and things like that. And they're not interested in any kind of the experimental stuff that we've seen on paranormal television. They're not really, I guess what I'm trying to say is the way we've been doing it is not the interest of the younger people that are coming, the younger generation coming in.
I wonder, though, because I was thinking about when you were saying it, I wonder, though, if paranormal television as such on travel, whatever, is what created, the version that we have now on YouTube, in a sense, because I think we haven't had experimentation really as far as in a logical way for a number of years, in my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right, but it's just how I see it. I see shows that, every week they come up with some contraption to try to trap a ghost. That's not research. That's not really. That's true. that's a gimmick. That's Ghostbusters. And I just, so I think that if you're having these paranormal, celebrities, for lack of a better term, trying to figure out how to stay relevant, how to keep going forward in their career, I think, unfortunately, the shows that they made is making it difficult for them, because you get all these up and coming people who are doing it differently, because I think they might have learned from the shows that were on.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Also, the stuff that is on YouTube now, they're finding new locations all over the place. It's not the same old locations. I think that's important. I keep stressing that, and it's because, the first time I've ever seen, not so much ghost hunters, because that was more, they were investigating people's homes and things like that, which was really interesting. I love that aspect of it. But as time went on, they figured out that going to these big locations, like I think the first one I've ever seen was the St. Augustine Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that episode? And then they supposedly they capture this bright figure all the way up at the top from the bottom with a camera. It's kind of neat. I don't know how, I can't say if that's real or not. It is TV. I can't sit here and say if it's real. I can't say that's fake. I just don't know. But it's the first time I've ever seen the St. Augustine Lighthouse. I didn't know that existed before. And I'm sitting I was in school at the time, and I remember watching the television go, wow, that's pretty neat. I might have to go down there and check that out. And that's what made those shows so cool, is because they were always going to these new locations left and right. I remember Ghost Adventures, when they first went into some of the old ghost towns. Mm-hmm. It was just so fascinating. Now, though, 100 shows later, we're still going to that same location in Virginia City, right? The Washoe Club. It's been done, guys. What's out? I'm sure there's some other location that has just as much interest, and these younger kids are finding it.
I think such a good point. What you and I have talked before. Mine that my aha moment had always been the Goldfield, because that's in Goldfield, Nevada, and I know that's means a lot to you as well. And that was I was lucky enough, being from Minnesota, to go out there and stand outside there. I didn't have the opportunity to go in, unfortunately. But you're absolutely right. This is stuff that, it took us different places. And there was a time when there wasn't as many shows before travel decided to go all paranormal. There was a time when these shows would stick in certain regions of the country, different shows, because I think that's what the budget allowed or whatever else. So, Ghost Hunters would always be in the East Coast area. Ghost Adventures generally would be in like the southern, and part of the country, maybe get into like my area once in a while. They've done a couple episodes. They did a couple episodes up in Minnesota. And I always thought that was kind of nice because it covered the country very well. But to your point that after so many times of going back 3, 4, 5 times, it does lose its luster quite a bit, and that is where like people with fresh ideas come in, and they find different locations that a lot of us have never heard of before, and that's what I'd rather see too.
The other thing too, the other part of that is kind of like a two-step thing here, is that the shows kind of followed the same pattern. Like you would have them go in, set up all their location. They would do a couple interviews with the people that would either work or own the place. And then they would investigate. And they would always investigate the same exact way. They would always use, whatever method that they were using. And then it would always be like Estes method or something like that. And then they would always use they might have a new piece of equipment, but it would be the same thing as the last piece of equipment with just a little bit of a difference. And then they would go into how scary it was during the investigation. There's always some kind of suspense factor there. And then at the end, it's like the great reveal. And that's the whole, and it's always like, I hate to be so blunt about it, but it's always 4 to 3 white guys on the show.
Yep.
Every single one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you would have anything, like a couple examples of where you got it a little bit different, you would have, you had Ghost Brothers, but what's unfortunate about Ghost Brothers was that there was such a comical sort of spin to it that it was hard to take it seriously. And I think that was a detriment to who these people were personally. It was just a little too much. And I know that's what everybody wanted to see, and it's that I don't think that's right.
Well, I think they were trying to do something a little different to see if it would go. They were it seemed like they were trying to break out of that mold that seemed to be created with the Discovery Channel with paranormal, with that whole setup thing. They were, they're the only ones that kind of tried to break out of that mold. It seemed like.
Yes,
something different.
It is. I also think too. Did you ever watch Ken Boggle's show on Hulu, Living for the Dead?
I did not. No.
That was. I thought that was a great program, and it was all about a team that was made up from the LGBTQ community. And I don't think it was. I think it was. Their stories are being told through it. It was very interesting. It was I thought it was very well made, but it didn't make it past the first season. It never caught on. And I think, and I mean, this is just a theory, but I think what people generally want to watch is something that scares them. As on that panel that I was on, we were talking about what can we do to change people to think differently about the paranormal when they're like the general public when they're watching the shows. I personally don't think they want to change. I think the general public wants to be frightened by it. So at the end of the day, that's what they really want to see. Like I said, it's just a theory on my end, but I mean, I just feel like that they much rather not know about the research and how we've come along and stuff, and much rather just go and be like, ooh, I'm scared. Ooh, I'm scared. It's like the Haunted Mansion at Walt Disney World. And now it's done, and I don't have to watch anymore.
Yeah, I think there's something to that, because I've always said there's 2 types of paranormal people in the world. There's those that are really into it and want to research it, and they get into it kind of like I get into it like that. Mm-hmm. And they want to be a part of it. They do it, that sort of thing. And then you have your entertainers, the entertainment crowd. You either want to entertain or you want to be entertained, one of the two. But you're not really so much as a ghost hunter or investigator or researcher or any of that kind of stuff. So there is something, and there is somebody I know on one of the shows that are being filmed, and I'm not going to name which one, but I found out that they filmed an entire season within just one weekend. Now, if anyone out there that does videography of any kind, it takes like 8 hours of filming just to get 30 minutes of good content. That's with anything. So, how much of a 40-minute program are you actually getting in one weekend if you're filming, 8 shows like that at one time? They're really not even investigating at this point. I think it's more of they're trying to put content together strictly for entertainment purposes. So that would be moving forward. I think that's maybe the direction we might be going in, just to get the likes and all of that stuff up on social media and some of these streaming services. I could be wrong on this.
I don't know. I mean, and that's just it. I mean, and I say this very carefully, but you have these, you have streaming services that cater to paranormal, and some of the stuff that they put on there is of very high quality. And then you have some that may not be as high a quality, may not be people who have ever been professional in the field, but they're putting their creative content out there. And that I'm happy that people are able to do that. But it does come to the point too of whether or not, like, is this just because you can put it out there, is this the right thing? Is this the right way forward? Because there should be something in, you and I both come from a production background, and there is something about kind of like, if you're going to do it, you should do it right.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. If you're going to do something, do it right.
And I'm always afraid of it. I'm sure I don't want to speak for you, but I'm always afraid that the things that make make production so good is in danger of being lost because of the fact that we can shoot on our iPhones. We can skip a lot of steps, and that's not always a bad thing. But at the same time, you're getting people who are just putting anything out there. Meanwhile, you have, really good professionals who are out of work, who are not able to find work or anything else because audience is just kind of switching to fast and easy and stuff that you watch it once and you forget about it and you wait for the next one to come through. And that's, for people in our field, I feel bad because this is a craft, doing this is a craft, and should be respected.
I just feel like we're kind of losing so much of the wonder that came with the paranormal in the beginning. It makes me sad, So, where do you think all of this silos? Do you think this is going to work, where you have 5 or 6 different big silos out there that are forming these services? How do you think that's going to play out?
I mean, I think silos never work, right? I mean, unless you're on a farm, I don't think silos really work, because that's the whole point of, like, one of the things that I do outside paranormal is I'm big into British television. I'm big into missing British television, and like stuff that's lost over time. And I, amongst other people, look for British television. And there are a couple people who are really well known for finding material, and none of them like each other. And I just keep thinking to myself, this is already a very niche group, and now you're making even more niche by making people kind of choose between whatever else. And maybe that's not exactly the same as, what we're talking about with the paranormal silos, but at the same time, it's like, well, people are going to talk with their wallets, and it's, I think where it gets frustrating is that people don't want to work with other people because of the silos, and it becomes territorial.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate, because that just never ends well for anybody.
Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that just recently, actually. with a project that I'm putting out there. And I got to tell you, I mean, when is there ever one thing of anything in media?
No.
You know, you have 100 different news stations out there. You have, you know, it's just silly to think that you're the only one that can create this type of a project, no matter what kind of media piece it is.
It's like you coming to me and saying, Greg, you do a program talking about the paranormal, exactly what I do on the Gateway podcast. I want you to stop. And
You're copying me. You're copying me, Greg.
Exactly, you're copying me. How on earth can how on earth can you be talking about paranormal? I talk about paranormal. You know, it that makes it so silly. Paranormal investigating can be exciting and also very boring. Not Cynthia, not if you're with me. It's never boring when you're with me. Okay, maybe it's always boring when you're with me. I don't know. I don't ask for feedback. I don't want to know. But you know what I mean, though? You're absolutely right. There's never one thing of anything. There's different takes on it. That's what creativity is about. And it gets really unfortunate. And, you know, it makes, I don't know about you, but it makes me not want to be working with anybody else or partner with other people, because it's like, I don't want to run a risk of people getting worked up because, you know, something got misconstrued or misunderstood or something like that. And it's just like, can we just collaborate? Can we just figure out how we can all just know that we can all just do our own thing? It's okay. You know, it's crazy.
It's really interesting. You see that a lot between the different TV shows too.
Oh yeah.
That backbiting aspect of it, which is just crazy. I mean, why can't there be? I know that the field is very flooded with TV shows and podcasts. And I mean, everyone has a podcast. Everyone and their grandma has a podcast these days, and their dog, nonetheless.
Right.
I mean, it's the way of the world now, right? Everybody podcasts.
Really
That's just how it is. Everyone figured out how to do it. They love it. And this is new. As far as television goes, though, I mean, if you're that concerned about somebody stepping on your or overshadowing you in some way, because that's really what it's about, right? If you're mad at me for starting a podcast, what you're really worried about is that I might be your competition. I might overshadow you and take some of that money from you somehow.
Yeah.
That's when you really cut through all the crap. That's what it really comes down to. So it's competition. So
which I don't have to worry about because I make no money. So, you know.
Well, that's the other thing too. I mean, how much money is there really to be made in this field at this point?
Yeah. Well, and you tell me if you don't want to go this direction, but I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to the conventions now, right? That the paranormal celebrities, you know, they're being invited out and stuff. And I mean, I don't doubt for a minute that these are nice people. This isn't what I'm getting at here. But, you know, there's a couple that, you know, every weekend they're doing a convention, and it's like, surely there's room for more, right? Other people
Right.
to take part. And I don't mean me, you know, I'm just saying, like, I'll see the flyers and I'll be impressed if I'll see a name I've never seen on them before. Just like, oh, okay, well, that's good to know that there are other people in this field. Because if there was an alien that just came to Earth and is just like, you know, wanted to go to a paranormal convention, and they're looking at Facebook feeds and they're like, oh, apparently there's only 8 people in the paranormal. You know, I mean, because the same 8 people are traveling from city to city every weekend, and good for them for making it work. It's just more, though, that it's like there is a lot of good people that I know that never get a look at that have a lot to offer. And I think that's, I wish that people would open the blinders a little bit more. And I understand this is a business thing that they're trying to do and make money, but it's like, give some of these people a shot, because their experience, their books that they've written, everything else is incredible and so good. So I just feel like that. That's something that hopefully kind of turns around, because I'm sorry that some of these people, and I've seen them, have the same stories every time I see them. And surely that it's time to hear a couple different stories.
It's interesting that you say that, and I might even get in trouble for what I'm going to comment on.
I know, I'm already thinking myself, here we go, yeah.
Yeah, here we go. This is my soapbox right here. All right, so you're right. You have the same 8 people that travel all over the country doing the same paracons over and over and over. And the paracons, you go to sign up, they're like, how much money now to attend these things? Like $400 or more? I forget.
I mean, it depends on what kind it is, because some are also really fairly inexpensive, but I mean they're different, depending on the size of the convention, I would say.
I'll equate it to the one here in Vegas that was a few years ago. It was the first one that I ever even been to. I think it was it around $300 to get in the door?
Well, it whatever it was, he took your money. That's all that you need.
I know, he did take my money. That's true. But I just remember I went in there and, I didn't know anything about paracons at this point. And it seemed like, okay, it was great. I got to sit through like maybe 2 talks, but then it was all about their TV show, which is fine, whatever. I didn't know at that point, didn't know any better. But it seemed like everything else that you wanted to do in that paracon, you had to pay for.
Yeah.
So not only do you pay the big bucks to get through the door, you had to pay extra to take your picture with such and such celebrity, or to do this such and such class, or whatever it may be. I mean, to me, if I'm paying to go to a paracon, why is that not all included?
Well, and to make matters worse, for that particular convention, the MGM Grand already knew that this guy who was organizing this convention, that he had he was going to be unable to fulfill the financial agreement between the MGM Grand and him. So you have the MGM Grand security people like standing behind Jason Haas, where everything that he would make, they would take. So that would help.
Are you serious?
I mean, yeah, because it was very clear that this person who put on the convention, who, lucky for us, is in Minnesota. He came from Minnesota.
Hey, he if you know him, he owes me some money. Just so
he owes me money as well. Yeah, I do know him. He owes me money, and not as much as he owes some of the para celebrities, though, where some of them. He's just like, get your room and I'll reimburse you at the MGM Grand in Vegas. And you can imagine they were never reimbursed. So there's some big cash grabs and whatever else. And I do not believe that he did it purposely to swindle money. He just doesn't know how to put on a convention. And I think, that's another big mistake that people have doing stuff like this, is that they think too big. And it comes back and it just slaps them in the face. So yeah, no, sorry. Now I took us a different direction completely, but it's
just interesting though, because that is the first paracon that I started out with. I've been to others too, but I got to tell you, Greg, I've paid quite some money to get to a couple of these and walked away with, I didn't get anything out of them. I don't want to hear about a TV show over and over again. I didn't get anything out of them. And I just feel like at this point, it's the same people at every single one of them. And I know, like, I'm probably going to get haters from saying this, but I'm going to say it. Can you not at least put together a presentation to teach? Right. If I'm paying to be at a paracon, why are these people not at least putting on actual presentations so I can take something away with me? That's kind of where I'm getting at with that.
And it's an interesting thing, because, and if I may be slightly malicious about it, I think that these people who are brought into these conventions, the celebrities, and this is like I'm putting down the gauntlet for them. I don't think they can put on a presentation that is like, oh, this is really, makes me really think, and not in the confines of, here's my presentation. When I was doing Ghost Hunters, we had some crazy times over on a boat. It's more like, okay, this is the research. The closest that I felt like we could have gotten would have been like getting like, say, like Alexandra Holzer talking about her father's work or something like that, or deep dive into that a little bit more.
Yes, exactly. Because that's what I want to hear about. And, quite frankly, like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of people who have written books that are not being asked of these things. I know about 3 physicians who are into the paranormal. One of them is you know who I'm talking about. He's a great guy. He's very intelligent. He's got a lot to say, and he's not asked to do these paracons. I don't get it. I would love to go. I would pay the money to go see him. I'm not saying that I wouldn't pay the money to go see the celebrities either. It's just that I've heard their story. I've seen them on TV. Yeah. I saw them all in person now at least one time. I don't need to go to those anymore. There's no reason for me to attend those anymore. So what's next? Especially
if they're not making new shows.
Right. Exactly. Some of them haven't even been on TV in 5 years.
And you got to wonder, because it's like, are they pushing, and if are they worried about doing more TV shows, or would they like to try to move the field forward? And is that even a consideration? It doesn't have to be, but I'm just curious because, so many of these people come across as quote experts, and I know there's no experts in the paranormal. I totally agree, but they still, I'm sorry, a lot of them still come across as experts, like they know better than anybody else. So with that being said, are you able to, do anything that actually moves this field forward other than just talking about, your scary experiences at a location many of us have been to a billion times or seen a billion times?
You're exactly right.
And I was just going to say real fast, all you have to do is look at like your shows, look at my shows, and see all the subsets of conversations that we've had that are not mainstream, paranormal conversations. If I was doing a Paracon, I'd be looking through some of the list of these podcasts and be like, I'd like to maybe try to get some of these people because their story is really interesting. I think to myself, the lady who worked at the hospice, and she had so many stories about paranormal experiences when somebody is just about to die on her watch, and the stuff that she has seen. Those are things that's like, why aren't we getting, seeing conventions that have people like that? They may not be household names, but they are people with amazing paranormal stories that leads to more conversations. I'd love to see that.
I think, it goes back to that catch-22 thing where I think the organizers of these Paracons think that they wouldn't be able to draw in the crowd. And it's interesting. I just saw a mime somewhere on social media where somebody posted, it was a line of going right to a celebrity booth to get their autograph or whatever. And sitting right in front of him was an author who wrote, I think he wrote about afterlife studies or something like that. And the line was just moving right past him and going directly to the celebrity. Yep. So I feel like maybe they feel like they wouldn't be able to sell tickets to these things if they didn't have the celebrity crowd. Mm-hmm. I think though we're getting to the point where, honestly, I think we're going to see more conventions without big names there anymore. I really do.
I think you're right, and I think one of the things that's going to change that too is, if the paranormal bubble has burst and that there are less people that are coming to the conventions, and I don't know if that's the case or if it's completely opposite. I really don't know, but the more that that comes down, that number comes down, you're either going to not be able to afford the para-celebrities anymore, or the para-celebrities are going to have to lower their rate to be able to keep coming out. So something is, I would suspect that something is going to change at some point. And and I don't want anybody to lose income. I don't want anyone to lose money or that, oh, they finally are getting it. No, it's nothing like that. It's just more of like an observation of how does this all survive? Because it had been on a high for a number of years. And out in Minnesota, Minnesota, for 5 years, they did this massive Paracon out there, which I think did more harm to the paranormal community than good, in the sense because you'd have these conventions that they would pay a probably fair market price for celebrities to come out. In Minnesota at the Shooting Star Casino, they paid top dollar. They just, and then they lavished them with like, an account that all you can drink, all you can eat, all this stuff. They're treated just like, royalty. And that starts to, that's people start demanding that at other conventions, like that sort of treatment. And that starts putting a lot of these people out of the market for smaller conventions as well. It's an interesting thing how that kind of all works.
That is an interesting thing. And I've actually talked to some Paracon people who are organizing these things, and they talked a little bit about that. I've heard a little bit of talk like that behind the scenes. And one of them in particular is supposed to be a fundraiser for a particular group. And the celebrities are going there and charging anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 for their attendance. They're not going for free, even though it's a fundraiser for such and such. And, I don't want them to go for free. That's not what I'm saying here. No. But if you're trying to sustain an event like that, you're going to have to start looking at maybe different aspects of the paranormal to bring in. Like maybe you don't have that big name paranormal celebrity at every single, I don't know. There's got to be something. Do you really need to have like an entire panel of para celebrities? Couldn't you just get away with maybe one and have a bunch of authors to change it up some? I don't know.
I totally agree with you. And it is something that I'm not certain I have an answer for either, only because you're right. These conventions probably wouldn't exist if you couldn't get like an anchor guest of some kind or a couple anchor guests. And that's where it becomes very, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg, in the sense of like, well, yeah, you could have, you don't need a paranormal celebrity. Okay, well then how many people are going to show up? And that becomes a question, like how many people do you want to have show up at these things? Because you want to have, you need to have an idea of what the number is based on size of your convention space and all that other stuff. And you'd hate to just like think that you have it all planned out, but if you don't have a good anchor guest of some kind, it makes it difficult. I will say real fast, there was a convention I was a part of in Salina, Kansas that I don't know what happened, but literally nobody showed up. Literally nobody showed up for this convention at this Masonic Lodge in Salina, Kansas. I do not understand. It's one of the best looking buildings ever, and had all the vendors there, but like maybe over the course of the entire weekend, they had about 20 people there. And Mustafa from Haunted Discoveries was a guest, and he was part of the new Ghost Hunters, and he was the anchor guest. And he came out there, and he was pretty enraged, to be perfectly honest, to see how poorly run this convention was. And he took his money that they paid him, and he gave it back to the location because they didn't get paid, and he made sure that they were taken care of.
Oh, that was very nice of him to do that.
Because we know that there's some that will definitely help out where they can, but and that's just it's just, to this day I don't understand how there was nobody at this convention.
What, Greg? The last couple of conventions that I've been to over the past year have not been well attended, not at all. Like I know, I've been to quite a few now of different ones, and it's more vendors than it is actual people attending.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing is that you have these bigger name celebrities, and they have like their following they'll have like their entourage is what I like to call it, that follow them from location to location. So they'll go, but when they go, they don't pay attention to anybody else except for that one celebrity.
Yep.
So if you go as like an author or anything else or anything like that, they're not going to come talk to you. They're all about that celebrity. They follow them around. They go to their shows. That's it. They're not there to see you at all. So are they even there for the paranormal, or are they just there for that celebrity? Is that thing. The other thing is you have that crowd, and then you have just other vendors, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, particularly the last one I attended, it was nothing but vendors. There was hardly anybody off the street that came to this thing. It was all vendors. So I really question how far the convention thing is going to go moving forward unless changes are made.
I just did a parafair in Wabasha, Minnesota, and there was no anchor guests whatsoever. There was no big names, just a bunch of like-minded paranormal groups together at this haunted hotel, tables set up and whatnot. And it was very healthy that day. The traffic was very healthy. There was a lot. The whole day was filled with speakers, and no big name speakers, just all of us having a conversation, having a topic. And when I spoke, there was probably about 30 to 40 people sitting listening. And I know that all the other speakers had about the same, if not more. And it shows that there are people who are interested just to see what it's all about. And I think, to your point, there's also those who they don't see, certain celebrities as paranormal investigators, but they see them as celebrities and they want to see somebody from their favorite show. And I think that is a huge difference there for sure.
And I don't know, how do you feel about these bigger events that are taking place, like the ghost hunting events at some of these locations where you have the paracelebrity come? I think they talk at these things. I can't remember. I know the one that I've been to, the person did talk for a little bit. And then you're supposed to investigate, but the groups are just so big. I didn't get anything out of it. I never did another one like that again. Like, I'll never do a big group investigation ever again because of it. No. And that's the thing too. It's like when you're investigating with a paracelebrity,
At least in my experience, the only person really investigating is that paracelebrity, and everyone else is just sitting there watching them like, ooh, let's see them do their thing. Let's see them, do whatever. And that holds nothing for me personally to be able to say that I investigated with so-and-so, because I really didn't. Everyone else is so enamored with that person. That's fine. There's a place for that. I understand that. And the thing is like, now I'm so self-sustained in the sense that if I want to have an event where it's a unique location, bring people out and allow them to investigate, I can do so. And at the events, I rarely investigate. I try to let other people investigate and whatnot. And this event in Wabasha, I didn't investigate. Other people investigated. It's, I think like you and I are lucky in being in positions where we don't have to. For some, I feel like that this is the only way that they think that they can do a paranormal investigation, because they don't know that there's people like you and I putting on events. They're only seeing really the mainstream sort of, like they're following their favorite person and they're seeing they're doing an investigation, so they're going to get tickets for that. They're not seeing that you and I are having our own events, which means a much more intimate experience, and much more likely that they're going to, if they want to, do their own investigation and be with people who are like-minded and actually do like a real thing. There's room for both of them, but I much rather do and where I can help people investigate and help them really experience spirit communication instead of watching one person investigate.
That's a really good point. So where do you think all of this is going?
To hell. No, I don't know. I don't know.
We're already there.
We're already there. The thing is, and I'm curious what you think about this, because like on that panel that I did, the question was like, how do we change the situation? I don't think we can. But what I can do is I can have my own I can have my own way of doing stuff. This is my own brand of paranormal. And my brand of paranormal is my show where I can bring in people like you and really dive deep into conversations and topics. And then I can do my events. I don't think that I would ever be on a TV show, so I'm not worried about that. It's more of like, you know, if people want to see the real deal, they can seek people like you and I out and other very amazing, very capable people, if they so want to. And hopefully that, you know, maybe there's 3 to 5% of everyone who watches those shows and think, you know what, I want to dig a little bit deeper than what I'm seeing on screen. I'm fine with on screen, but I want to dig a little deeper. And maybe that's where we pick up some of these new people who they just want to see more. They want to experience more. And it was to quote your title of your show, it's a great gateway into the paranormal, seeing those shows, but maybe they can dig a little bit deeper and find people like you and I and others who can take them further in their journey.
Right. Because I tell you what, it is a journey. And
It's,
you know, truthfully, it's a very personal journey too. And I don't understand why well, maybe I just don't see them is probably what it is. But I'm not seeing a lot of people right now that use the paranormal as like a personal journey out there. I know Tabitha does, though.
Yeah, absolutely. and you know, at the event in Wabasha, I definitely met some people who have their own, like there's one that has their own paranormal group. They're starting out, but you know, they're ready to transition from just being a paranormal team to making it their journey. That's what they're doing. They decided that's the direction they're going. So to me, it kind of made me think there are people like that still out there. And it's just a matter of hopefully at some of these events that you get some people who are like, I want to dig deeper. I want to know more. This is not a hobby. This is a lifestyle. You know, I feel like I can add something to this. And those are the people that I would love to talk to.
What events do you have lined up for this year?
I have a couple that I am working through right now that I haven't officially signed on to yet. One is to be an official podcast for an event that could be in April, talking about something in June. I'm going to be at Twin Cities Con and different type of cons in Des Moines and Madison. Of course, there's the Rock Island Paracon that GhostBox Radio is a sponsor on as well. That's going to be. I love
Rock Island is a great one.
And I've not been.
I'm kind of disappointed that I'm not going to be at that one this year.
You're not going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed to hear that too. And there's other things happening as well. And then we're looking at events through the station and myself for locations in Minneapolis that no one's investigated. We're in talks with them right now to do some investigations and have some events there, as well as we have this relationship with a mansion called 300 Clifton that we've done some investigating and done some live shows from. So there's a lot happening. It's becoming really exciting, and I'm very blessed at the moment with some of the stuff that's come our way.
Greg, thank you so much for taking the time out to come talk to me tonight. It's always fun talking to you on here.
It is. It's an honor. Thank you. I appreciate you asking me.
I know we could talk for hours and hours on just where is the paranormal going.
Trying to stay positive too when I answer. So,
you know, I am going to say this. I do think that there is a positive outcome here. I just think that there's going to be a lot of changes with it.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be a lot of turnover and things are going to, so it'll, you know, everyone's backbiting and fighting for that one silo position or whatever it is. But I think in the end, it's all going to even out. I think people are going to come back to what the true purpose it was with the paranormal. And that was, you know, you're doing your spiritual work and looking inward, because that's really, think about what gets you into the paranormal. It's always you lost somebody or something happened to you to get you to this place to begin with. no matter what it is. You could have lost a loved one. You could have had a near-death experience, whatever that may be. Something happened to you for you to be exposed to the paranormal and into it. So I feel like the paranormal for me is like the spirit world trying to get your attention to look deeper into things. For me, that's what this is about. And I think a lot of people are going to start using the paranormal or looking more deeply into it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I hope
to
so.
better themselves.
I like that. I will go with that. Absolutely.
Anyways, thank you for listening to The Gateway, your portal to the unexplained, the mystical, and the otherworldly, broadcast live from 107.7 FM New Orleans. So for next week, I have a really special guest for next week, and he's an author from Alaska. I'm not going to give out any details. You'll know here in a few days who it is, but it's going to be a really good show. So stay tuned next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific. Until next time.